Hey ninjas, welcome back to the channel. F- here with F-TV. We're not talking Legends today. Instead, we're talking Turtles in Time Reshelled. Guys, this game is awful. God, I remember playing it when it came out back in the day, and it was just bad. I just remember feeling so empty inside, like struggling to find the desire, the joy to play this game. And this many years later, let me tell you, it's not any easier. Like, I had to force myself to play this. It's so bad. It's soulless. It's absolutely soulless and can't hold a candle to the original Turtles in Time. Now, for those uninitiated, this game came out for PS3. It may have come out for other systems, but I know it was for sure on PS3. And it's not a remake. It's more of a port of the arcade version of Turtles in Time. Right? So it's not the glorious, amazing, super great SNES version. It's actually the arcade version, which, everybody likes the arcade version as well. But they just did things to it that made it so much worse. Like, you could have just re-released that version, because I know Xbox did have that version. You could have just re-released that version with, like, online play, and I think everyone would have been, like, super happy. Very similar to how they did for Simpsons and X-Men. Why didn't they just do that? It would have been so much better than this crap. I wanted to talk about some specific points, and I found a review on Console Monster by Chris Taylor that we're going to read a little bit of. But I wanted to talk about some of the things in this game that's just, ugh. So first off, obviously, the biggest change is going to be the transition to 3D graphics. Right? And there's a quote in Console Monsters, the review, that basically says this is a double-edged sword. Right? So the shift from 2D sprites to 3D models introduced a modern visual appeal, right, with cartoon-like aesthetics and enhanced lighting effects. And it does not look terrible, right? It doesn't. However, this change also led to challenges in gameplay clarity. And this is probably the worst part of transitioning from 2D to 3D. Players found it difficult to discern enemy positions and attack planes, especially during chaotic moments with multiple characters on screen. I'm sure you can tell by the footage that I also had this problem. Like, the game sometimes would target, it has like an auto-target thing, and it would sometimes just auto-target the wrong person. My character would move super weird, and being able to attack in 8 directions sounds really great if it was truly a 3D space, and it's really not. And it tries to do it, and it just fails really badly, right? And speaking of combat, it is very simplistic, as it was in the arcade, I'll give it that. And it is also very repetitive. So again, they did introduce 8 directional attacks, but it's just, there's no need for it, right? You did have a standard attack, a special attack, and a few situational actions like throwing enemies, but that honestly is kind of random. And true to form, it's very repetitive. It lacks any and all depth and variety, right? Because you don't get any new moves, you don't learn anything new. What you have from the start is what you have. A 4-player action. I did get to play this 4 players with my brothers, and it was fun because I was playing with them, but it wasn't fun because we were playing the game, right? It was honestly, it was fun because we were all playing it together. And we were all experiencing the same terrible experience together, right? We had a shared misery. And that's kind of why it was fun, right? It's not a very long game either. And there is really no replay value. You don't unlock anything worth unlocking. So it's just like, ugh. As well, visually, of course, a lot of people did enjoy the visuals. Like I said, I think it looks great. It's very reminiscent of the cartoons. However, the absence of an option to switch back to the 2D, if they would have added that honestly would have been really, really great. But that's not in this game. The soundtrack was also changed. The voice lines were changed. It wasn't the game we were all used to, right? It was not an expensive game either, and I think that's kind of not reminiscent, but it's very evident in the gameplay. Like, they didn't really spend too much money on this. And it doesn't, like I said, there's no replay value. There's really no good reason to play this game. As a TMNT fan, there's no good reason to play this game, right? So now, from that Console Monster review by Chris Taylor, he does go on to say that and this is specifically about the graphics, the swap to 3D for Reshelled is needless and utterly wasted. Totally agree. Despite giving you 8 directions of attack, you pretty much still follow the same 2D plane as normal. Enemies come at you in a straight line as you follow a linear path forwards. You might think that maybe the 3D plane will allow you to explore the levels a bit. Alas, no. You just go forwards, beating up enemies that come directly at you or from behind you. The 3D, if anything, makes the experience worse because it's hard to deduce from which plane of field an enemy is attacking you from. And then the 8 directions of attack work against you. It's spot on. Absolutely spot on. Then he goes on to say regarding the combat itself isn't all that exciting anyway. You basically have 4 attacks, 3 of which come from the same button. Ground melee, sliding melee, aerial melee, and special attack. There are no combinations to these attacks, so it tends to just end up with you mashing the attack button repeatedly with the occasional special button for your special attack. Sure, occasionally your turtle will slam an enemy to the ground or swing them off screen, but these occur randomly and have no real bearing on what buttons you press. It ends up being a rinse and repeat procedure with the enemies, even more so with the bosses, which don't really break up the combat all that much. You're forced to only do aerial attacks once in a while. The game itself is incredibly frustrating. Not in a learn from your mistakes kind of frustrating, but a that wasn't even fair kind of frustrating. This all seems to be down to the traps. Oh my god, the traps. And you could see it here. The first example that comes to mind is a sewer level, but I'll get back to that later. Now there's a ship level in which planks, if stepped on, will hit you in the face. It's almost impossible to see the planks with our traps, especially with a number of turtles and enemies on the screen at one time. The collision detection is quite broad too, so if you happen to go so much as go near the trap, it will somehow hit you square in the face. What's more annoying is that during some levels, if you are knocked down by a trap, you can get hit by another trap while you recover from the previous one. The sewer level, in which you surf down the sewers of New York, avoiding closing gates and red mines. This would be okay if your turtle didn't control like he was swimming through a vat of golden syrup. It's almost impossible to avoid any of the traps in this level, and what with the mines so close together, if you hit one, it is guaranteed you will hit the next one as you try to get up. Don't play this game. Just don't play it, don't buy it, don't even remember it existed. I'm sorry that I did. Really am. Whew. But I do it for you guys because I love you. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Take it easy.